Hello, it's us again, right?
Right.
Some of the best Course in Miracles students around. Let me let Hildegard in and we'll continue. She's connecting to audio. Hi, Hilda.
Hi, Elda.
Hey, we're just getting started here. Um,
Evening,
oh,
everybody.
yeah. I was just getting started, and I guess the first thing in order is to say I hope you all had a very nice Labor Day weekend. And here it is the day after Labor Day, and in Michigan, the weather is very nice. So I'm enjoying my day. This is, as you all know, the Unity of Livonia A Course in Miracles Study Group on Tuesday, September the 3rd. Thank goodness for all these Google calendars and devices around me. Um, we are to get into our agenda tonight, but anything y'all wanted to say though, for the record, comment, or anything to announce or discuss or anything? All right. Uh, to get into our agenda this evening, we're starting out in the workbook for students. And we are on page, hold on. We are on page, as far as the actual lesson, page 412. But as we know, every lesson is preceded by a review of the special theme thereon. And it took me years to begin to legitimately connect. Like, there's a special theme, and then there are like 10 lessons behind the special theme, right? And it took me many years to realize that those lessons really did pertain to the special theme. I mean, it's hard enough in this book to understand each paragraph and then to make sense of a particular lesson well enough because we understood at least those paragraphs. And then to find out over the years that the lessons are organized and they really do pertain to that group. In this case, the special themes that we're going through. So it's a constantly deepening understanding, and for me, an appreciation for whoever the hell wrote it. Okay, they're brilliant when you look at how, in what a sophisticated way from a psychological perspective that it's presented. So I just have to maybe offer my admiration over many years of looking at this material and just hope I can convey my enthusiasm to you for the exciting things that this helps us to see more clearly, more simply. You know how Jesus always says, this is a simple course. But for how many years, as much as you want to believe them, does it seem simple to you? No. Has it gotten any simpler over the years or just still more confusing?
Some of it's beginning to soak in.
And how about the rest of you?
I think it's getting a lot simpler for me.
Yeah.
The repetition and the consistency really helps me.
And when you start to see that, eventually you'll start seeing it collapse around certain things, like these special things, and all the 10 lessons really are, he's just explaining more about the special things and helping us to experience them in a meaningful way.
Right.
And along the way, the complexity starts to decrease, and it, oh yeah, okay, it just means this. But it means it all from all different angles. It works.
It
That's
does.
our speech to get us started. You ready to get our readers going?
Sure.
All right. I have Sherilyn number 1, Gina number 2. Nancy, how about you tonight, my dear?
You know, I'm going to have to pass, Jim. My cough is
Yes.
acting up, so
Oh, I'm
I'm gonna
sorry. Okay. Gina 2, Ron is 3, Frank is 4, Joan is 5. What about you, Hilda? No? Are you reading?
He's muted.
No, I prefer not to.
All right, dear.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. So we have 5 readers, and maybe some other folks will be joining us. So I just say, why don't we get started? We're in the workbook for students on page on page 407. Y'all there?
Yes.
All right. Special theme number 2, Sherilyn.
What is salvation? Salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to Him at last. It cannot but be kept. If it guarantees that time will have an end and all the thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind which thinks that it has separate thoughts and will replace these thoughts of conflict with a thought of peace.
Thank you. Gina?
The thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant that his mind had thought of war. There was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite, and merely was. But when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. So the thought that has the power to heal, the split, became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one, but failed to recognize its oneness. Now it did not know itself and thought its own identity was lost.
Shall we stop for a minute or keep going?
Yeah, I'm not real clear on that last couple of sentences.
Why don't you read once, see if we can help?
The thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one. but fail to recognize the oneness.
Comments, somebody help my friend Sherilyn out. Let's back up a little bit and get us started, because in sentence 5 is the subject we'll be talking a lot more about tonight in the manual for teachers. But
Mhm.
sentence 5 says, but when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. What's healing? Is healing reparative? Doesn't healing restore?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay,
Mhm.
like, yeah, it restores a previous state of health in the
Yes,
case of the current vernacular of healing. Would you say that health is wholeness? All systems go?
yes,
Everything's working okay? And when you have a lack of health, is it because something ain't working right?
yes,
Something's broken? Yes?
yes. Talking about the
So
split mind.
isn't healing trying to repair the brokenness and thereby restore homeostasis? That's
Mhm.
a healthcare term, but it's the state of well-being.
Yes,
So if something's broken and you attempt to repair it, aren't you trying to restore the previous condition,
yes.
the default state, to put it in computer terms? How many are with me? All right. The reason I'm spending time on it is the earth shaking statement that Jesus makes in the Course is that healing, the magic of true healing, is simply that it restores the previous default state. What do I mean, default state?
Well, that's fault is when the split has occurred.
No. In
No,
computer language, when you know how sometimes your computer messes up and you have to turn it off and turn it
yes,
on,
yes,
it's because when you turn it back on, no matter all the stuff you did before, it returns to its original settings.
okay,
Right.
It returns to either the factory settings or any settings that you've customized as the default. But when you turn, the way that it gets rid of a problem is to just cancel all of that activity and start back at the original state. Why am I talking about computers?
because there is a similarity in the way they function.
Comparison between the computer and our minds.
The way you heal a computer, if you can't fix all the little problems, turn it off and turn it back on, right?
Right.
Yes.
So if you want to heal a split mind, a broken mind, you should turn it off
Go back to the original.
and it'll go back to the original state. The cure for sickness is to turn it off, the brokenness, so it will show its original state again. That's, to me, paragraphs 1 and 2. How are you feeling?
Very
Well, I understand.
That's a good example.
Do you see how different that is
Yes.
than what the world teaches healing is? The world sees healing as fixing something.
Fixing it. Yeah.
And this book talks about healing as canceling the mistakes, and that alone will restore it to its original conditions. Yes?
Yes.
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 But we're not talking about computers here per se, although the same analogy applies. We're talking about a supercomputer called our minds. So if you want to heal everything, which the Course says is all in our minds, you have to turn it off, which means I got to get a clean house of all the stuff I've got in there now, right?
Right.
Right.
Remove that, and it'll start at its original state again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
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 Is that a simple, scientifically based solution?
Yes.
Is that kind of a common sense solution?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's the analogy I'm getting from this. You want to read some more? But please keep in mind the new definition of healing. It'll serve us well as we go through this book. The stuff won't seem so foreign, okay?
Okay. Thank
Okey-dokey.
you.
All right. We're up to Ron, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Excellent.
Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. Thus, it lets illusions go. By not supporting them, it merely lets them quietly go down into dust. And what they hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God, wherein his world is written, with the gifts of your forgiveness laid before it, and the memory of God not far behind.
Thank you. Paragraph 4, Frank?
Let us come daily to this holy place and spend a while together. Here we share our final dream. It is a dream in which there is no sorrow, for it holds the hint of all the glory given us by God. The grass is pushing through the soil, the trees are budding now, and birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light.
Thank you. Joan?
From here we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until his Father is remembered. Dreams are done. Eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all.
Thank you. It's beautifully written, isn't it?
Yes.
Mhm.
Look at the imagery. He's using our illusions of beauty as examples of what this experience is going to be like. Excellent writer like Shakespeare or somebody, know how to evoke the emotions in it, isn't it?
Mhm.
Look at sentence 2 in paragraph 5. I only mention that because that's the longest sentence I've ever seen or close to it. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
Paragraph 5, sentence 2.
Yeah.
And the course has some of the longest sentences in general I've ever seen. And yet, grammatically, they stand the test. Anywho, what is salvation? Your comments before we go to the specific lesson. Theoretically, all the following lessons have something to do with salvation, right?
Mhm.
Some of them will say what salvation is and how to experience it. And the way to experience it is through healing. You remember how many times Jesus says, now we'll say a few words of invitation and forget everything we've been taught, everything we care about. We'll leave this world, he says, and experience another. Or was it hyperbole? Is there really a place over the rainbow? He said, well, I doubt it, but then you go, but I'll give it a serious try. And then you'll start to get glimpses that'll make you want to try it again. But you'll never even see the first glimpse if you're not willing to seriously, consciously give it a try, right?
Right.
Lip service won't work. I'll stop there. I did want to ask one last thing. That's a word, maybe it's on Monday night, we discussed at length. In paragraph 3, sentence 4, Jesus says, and what the illusions hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God. What's an altar?
It's
Some
a
sort of
Space.
Say it again, somebody.
I think of it as being a sacred place of some sort.
Okay. And Hilda,
Yeah.
you had a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I basically said the same thing. I mean, it's clean, it's unspoiled.
Yeah, but why is it clean and no. I agree. You can certainly think of that. Well,
Mhm.
what you might not consider is that it's not all that highfalutin. We use that word all the time. We just spell it ALTER. It's a platform where change occurs.
We talked about it some
On
time
Monday
recently.
night, yeah,
Yeah.
ACIM talks.
An empty
So
space.
it's he's saying, look, okay, my church has an altar call. It says at the end of the service, if you want to know Jesus for yourself, come up and join with us and turn your life over to Jesus and affirm that Jesus is your savior, blah, blah, blah. And if you, they say, come up to the altar at the end of church service, you know, get up from your pew and come up front, because you have to do something to show your willingness. You can't get saved from your seat. The place where change occurs requires you to make a minimum commitment. But they say that's where the first change in your life and giving your life starts. You have to come to the place where the change occurs. You have to meet the conditions. You can't sit back in your everyday stuff and hope to go to a new place, right?
Right.
So a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So come to the place where the change begins. Isn't that the purpose of meditation?
Mhm.
Right. But I think that not the issue, but the difference sort of is when we're talking about a church and talking about you're going to the front. In other words, you're confessing yourself. You're
Yes.
getting you're getting rid of whatever it is that ails you, and it becomes kind of like an open common knowledge where it really is a cleaning between yourself and to your higher power.
Yeah.
So it's not that you physically have to go someplace to a physical place.
Well, that's true. And yet it takes some willingness to even design a prayer closet in your house, right?
Mhm.
See, it's some level of commitment to get to another. You're trying to meet the conditions for the change to occur. You have to be in the mental space, and or to get to the mental space, you'll carve out some physical place in your prayer closet now, right?
Go.
Remember when you didn't even have a prayer closet? However, you've designed yours, okay? All right,
It's just physically, you don't have to have a physical spot.
right. However, you'd have to kind of take some physical action sometimes to help get us in the mood, even. All I'm talking about is a modicum of willingness.
Right.
But you can't want willingness. You can't wish you had willingness. You have to demonstrate
Right.
some willingness. on some level to get this thing started. Helpful?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, it is sacred, but the word itself is just a slight change in a very commonly used word today. Okay. All right. Lesson 239 is where I'm sure we are after this, and then we'll do a meditation period. Nobody else came in yet. So Sherilyn, I think we're back to you.
Are we skipping to 2:30 to,
Yes,
wait a minute.
lesson 239 on page 412.
Okay. Lesson 239. The glory of my Father is my own. Let not the truth about ourselves today be hidden by a false humility. Let us instead be thankful for the gifts our Father gave us. Can we see in those with whom he shares his glory any trace of sin and guilt? And can it be that we are not among them when he loves his Son forever and with perfect constancy, knowing he is as he created him? We thank you, Father, for the light that shines forever in us, and we honor it because you share it with us. We are one, united in this light, and one with you, at peace with all creation and ourselves.
Let's take a few minutes with that, okay? The glory of my Father is my own. I'll put some music on here and see what we think. The glory of my Father is my own. So the glory of my Father is my own. You know, last night on ACIM Talks, in that book study we're doing, we're talking about the nature of God and how they believe God is and all of that. And they talk about creation. You know, God's the author of creation. And they said, they quoted from A Course in Miracles and said something like, God placed himself in everything that God created. So I guess I was just reflecting that I didn't answer Sherilyn's question. Okay, let me see if I can put this together. All right. Sherilyn, we were back on what is salvation on 407. And your question, whoops, wait a minute. Yeah, 407. And wasn't your question in paragraph 2, sentence 4? So the thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind. Didn't you ask me about that one? I can't hear you.
Okay. Yes.
So God placed himself in every fragment when the mind was split, when it was shattered. What caused the shattering? Just so we're all staying on the same page. It starts with a T and then I-N-Y.
Tiny mad idea.
All right. That is the description of the shattering.
Okay.
And what was the tiny mad idea that caused the mind to split?
The thought that we could have individual egos. Or
That we could be separate.
separate.
Yes. Great answer. Thank you. Y'all following us so far?
Thank you.
So God solved the problem as soon as God recognized the problem.
Okay.
Now, the problem wasn't necessarily that the kids had a tiny mad idea, because the tiny mad idea being untrue was not known by God.
Hmm.
Okay. However, he knew that something was going on with his kids.
Okay.
Something wasn't right. They were under distress. There was this broken communication, or faint or covered over communication. And he knew that his kids were not perfectly happy. So what would you do as a concerned parent if you felt your kids were having a problem? What would you do?
I would try to help my
Yeah.
child.
Thank you. And being God, he had a lot of means to come up with a solution. Yes?
Yes.
That's
This one was an easy solution because when the mind got shattered through the tiny mad idea, supposedly,
Mhm.
he said, well, they can't really shatter the truth. So I'll just keep the truth in every part.
Every little piece, yeah.
In an acorn is how much of an oak tree?
All of it.
Wait, in every acorn? There's a
Yes.
Okay, so the Course calls this again, you'll hear Jesus say often, every part is a container for the whole. So you try to be separate from Joan, you tried to be separate from Nancy.
Not really. I'm trying anymore.
And yet you wouldn't want to give it up easily, would you?
Hmm.
Okay. You like the idea of Joan.
Hmm.
So there's no condemnation, okay, about motives. We're only saying the motive is very strong. Listen, Nancy, I love you, but no, no, thank you. Okay, I don't want to lose my identity completely. Which is okay because you don't either, if we're frank about it. So the tiny mad idea was very appealing. Yes?
Apparently so.
We're going to talk more about this in the next section on healing, which is in the manual for teachers that we're on. But is that helping out? I apologize. I got
Yes.
off on something else. How about the rest of you? Is that helpful when it says the thought that has the power to heal? What is the thought that has the power to heal?
Is that the Holy Spirit?
The thought that has the power to heal is the truth. Truth will overcome all adversaries. You can't get rid of the truth, can you? Yes, you can.
No,
You can assault the truth forever? No. All the truth has to do is nothing.
Mm.
Just be itself, right?
Yes.
right.
So do you see what a cool and easy solution God had to his kids' unhappiness problem? Does that make sense, at least from someone as all unknowing as Reverend Jill? Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's all I got to go on is, does it make sense? I don't know, but if you understand it, yeah, it makes sense. As much sense as this other crap. I say that crap affectionately, right? Love everyone, everything, all the time. It all has its purpose and its place. So let's move into the manual for teachers now. I think we're in for a interesting ride, okay? We're on page 17 in the manual. And oh man, I'm still trying to digest this too after these many years. Do you all see it? It's question 5. How is healing accomplished?
Mhm.
And Gina, did you read? Is it your next turn?
I think it is.
Cool.
How is healing accomplished? Healing involves an understanding of what illusion of sickness is for. Healing is impossible without this.
And then let me just interrupt. So he's going to talk about this in 3 sections. The first section is called the perceived purpose of sickness. What is it you think sickness does? And it may not be what you think it does, okay, on the surface. The second is, once you understand the purpose of sickness, the perceived purpose, how do you shift your perception to perceive something different? And once you can experience that, if you like it, what is your function in this regard as a teacher of God? Okay, so if I can get this to make sense to you about the false premise, the real deepest perception of what sickness is, if I can explain it to you, what the problem is, what the solution is, and your role in carrying out a solution, teacher of God, to me, that's the outline of what we're going to talk about, okay? Any questions before we proceed further? Because what he's going to say is astounding to me. It's challenging for me to wrap my head around it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we all struggled a little bit, don't you think? Let's have some fun, okay? Gina, why don't you go into Romans 1?
The perceived purpose of sickness. Healing is accomplished the instant the sufferer no longer sees any value in pain. Who would choose suffering unless he thought it brought him something, and something of value to him? He must think it is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. For sickness is an election, a decision. It is the choice of weakness, in the mistaken conviction that it is strength. When this occurs, real strength is seen as threat and health as danger. Sickness is a method conceived in madness for placing God's Son on his Father's throne. God is seen as outside, fierce and powerful, eager to keep all power for himself. Only by his death can he be conquered by his Son.
And Ron, paragraph 2. See,
Symbolizes the defeat of God's Son and the triumph of his Father over him. It represents the ultimate defiance in the direct form which the Son of God is forced to recognize. It stands for all that he would hide from himself to protect his life. If he is healed, he is responsible for his thoughts. And if he is responsible for his thoughts, he will be killed to prove to him how weak and pitiful he is. But if he chooses death himself, his weakness is his strength. Now has he given himself what God would give to him, and thus entirely usurped the throne of his Creator.
I'm sorry. Okay. Let's go through this again and see if you're getting it the way I am as to the perceived purpose of sickness. Paragraph 1. Your comments. What sentences stood out to you? What questions? How many don't have a clue?
Well, it says sickness is an election. I think that's one thing. Decision.
Yeah, I think that's the primary point.
Why would anyone in their right mind choose it?
Well, they probably wouldn't, but we're talking about people who aren't in their right mind.
Sometimes we like sympathy.
Is it the people?
Sure.
Because the people have a choice. What is it that's devoted to a choice like this? Start
Someone
with an E.
ego.
Why would the ego choose this?
Yes,
Well, there are some people who view sickness as a viable way to get through life, to be well, that it's going to save them somehow by being ill. Illness is going to be a tool, kind of, for those people.
Yeah. Weird, but okay, let's
Yeah.
leave it there. Frank, you had a comment?
just some people are looking for someone to feel sorry for them. And it's a way of getting attention and a strange way of getting along.
Yeah.
And an excuse for avoiding other things that are more, and an excuse for avoiding other things that might suit them better.
Yeah. Is that the only way to get love or attention is by being sick?
No.
Well, I
So
think some
why
people
who would choose this painful way?
An ego-centered person.
yeah, it's
Well, okay, but for simplicity's sake, let's stay with some simple characters. There are only 4 characters in the whole book. There's God, the Son of God, the Holy Spirit, and the ego. Have you seen any other characters in this book?
no.
So do you see why I'm trying to keep it simple, Frank? I
Okay.
won't say ego-centered people. I'll pick one of the four. The ego.
Yeah.
Why would the ego make a choice like this? What seems to be such a painful choice, and yet it won't let it go. Why?
It's all about suffering.
Yeah, but
Um,
why would he choose that?
It proves that you're separate and that you can overcome it, and therefore you
Okay.
become like
And
God.
the reason that it would go to such lengths to uphold what Hilda said is because it's crazy.
mhm.
But I think some of these things happen in what we might call the subconscious mind. You don't really
Yes,
realize it,
Right?
that
yeah, they
is
don't
going
plant.
on.
Jesus is saying, he said, you may think there's another cause of sickness, a reality of sickness, but this is another clever deception of the insane ego that you think until you know better, until you discover the wizard guy behind the closet and that they're crazy. Do you see the ego is the personification of the tiny mad idea?
Yes.
That's where the ego was born. It was the thought system of separation, which is directly opposed to the thought system of God, where all is one. You with me?
Yes.
So, to what lengths would this insane entity go to prove that it has given itself what God would give to him and thus entirely usurp the throne of his creator? Who in their right mind would try to usurp the throne of their creator?
No.
Your ego, though, is not in its right mind. That's why it won't, you can't reason with it.
That's right.
But I can reason with you, the Holy Spirit says. You are not your ego. You can make the choice to solve this suffering. You with me?
Yes.
And isn't the elimination of suffering the restoration of health?
Yes.
You don't fix it by trying to fix the problem. You can't fix a problem that does not exist. The only solution is to let that thought go. It doesn't serve you, does it? But do you see what a hold the ego has on us? 24/7.
Mhm.
People start to recognize it in certain aspects. But do you see how it's colored every definition we have?
Mhm.
but you have to understand what it's designed to cover up, what its purpose is. Its purpose is to uphold separation, communication, and communion with your Creator. It's a block to the awareness of love's presence. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
That's what Jesus is saying the real issue is. And the madman ego, don't mistake it, its goal is to usurp the power of God and maintain separation to the conquest of unity. Good speech on that one.
Very good.
Very good.
Get
Question?
an A.
Huh?
Said you get an A.
Thank you, man. Yay. Shall we move on? Okay.
Mhm.
That's so you see, it's a good way to start to explain. First of all, you've been had again. All right. Our next reader up to Frank, aren't we?
No,
No?
Ron,
Whose turn is it then?
we just read it.
Where's Ron?
I read
Right.
last, I
Read.
believe.
Ron just read.
Oh, Ron read, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's you, Frank. Roman 2.
Okay. And what in this insane, and what in this, let me try it again. And what in this insane conviction does healing stand for?
Oh, wait.
Oh,
Didn't we read 2?
I-
Ron, you read 2, right?
Yes, I did.
So you see, Frank, we're in the next section, Roman 2, the shift in perception.
I'm familiar with what I was reading. Number 2, the shift in perception, in paragraph 1. Healing must occur in exact proportion to which the valuelessness of sickness is recognized. One need but say, there is no gain at all to me in this, and he is healed. But to say this, one must first recognize certain facts. First, it is obvious that decisions are of the mind, not of the body. If sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, it is a decision. And it is a decision, it is the mind and not the body that makes it. The resistance to recognize this is enormous because the existence of the world, as you perceive it, depends on the body being the decisive maker. Terms like instinct, reflexes, and the like represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivation. Actually, such terms merely state a desirable or describe the problem. They do not answer it.
Yeah, let's go on to Joan, please.
Paragraph 2, the acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which it would use the body is the basis of healing. And this is so for healing in all forms. A patient decides that this is so, and he recovers. If he decides against recovery, he will not be healed. Who is the physician? Only the mind of the patient himself. The outcome is what he decides that it is. Special agents seem to be ministering to him, yet they but give form to his own choice. He chooses them in order to bring tangible form to his desires. And it is this they do and nothing else. They are not actually needed at all. The patient could merely rise up without their aid and say, I have no use for this. There is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once.
This is the chapter or the paragraph. I can't do that yet. You? I mean, I'm still in my mind going, really?
Hmm.
Does this paragraph 2 sound achievable to you, that you could just merely rise up without the age of the special agents and say, I have no use for this,
Mm.
and any sickness would be cured at once? Can you do that?
No,
Jesus did.
Yeah, that's my point. Thank you. That's beautifully said.
Hey, I'm doing well tonight, huh?
Well,
I'm catching up.
before you say I can't do it, Sherilyn can point to someone that seems to have been able to do that.
Trust me
So
there. Give me
it
a clue.
can't be impossible even here in level 2, can it?
Right. No, it's not. It's not impossible.
Well,
That's
Jesus
why.
did.
Go ahead, Hilda.
I said, well, Jesus did, when we have to go back to that,
Yeah.
because he's the ultimate son.
I can't do it, but I can't say it's impossible.
No,
You
no.
Nothing is impossible.
and Jesus is a great example of that, or at least a story.
Yes.
I don't know if there really was a Jesus for real. Do you? I read
No.
it in the book.
Yeah.
Read a lot of things. Some of them are true. I watch the news. Some of it's fake news, I guess. I don't know. What do I know? What do you know, Frank? You look pretty smart.
I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
All right. And so many wise people have said, I don't know is the gateway to eternity. You ever heard stuff like that?
Yep.
No,
Yes, I haven't
Who
heard
said
that.
no? Who said no?
I did. I did. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, any of the rest of you heard stuff like that? The
Yeah.
power of not knowing.
No, I haven't.
All right. So I'm adding some new stuff. So you're not getting bored, because we're actually offering new material. But I can assure you, many wise sages have said to not know is the gateway to heaven.
Ignorance is bliss.
Say that again, Frank.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's-
Okay, and we laugh at that. But think about ignorance. Could it be blissful?
No.
Some people think it is when they're being ignorant,
Well,
when they
if-
are ignorant.
okay. So if you were ignorant, wouldn't that be the same state as the default state on the computer?
I would think so.
Could be.
You canceled out all your learning. You're ignorant, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So is our original state happy or sad? A lot of the sages, what's lesson 101 say again?
I don't know what anything is. Is that
Well, somebody look it up, man. Y'all taking too long. What is lesson 101? What's the title?
God's will for me is perfect happiness?
So
Is
if
that the
that
one?
was God's will for me, and God is real, and God is love, what were my factory settings? What was the original condition, my original condition?
Happiness and
Perfect.
love.
It's just a matter of canceling out the crap, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's not doing, it's undoing through a process called forgiving or letting go
So,
of what's not true. And then what do you have left?
the belief in God, God's will.
No, 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 no.
No.
If you remove everything that's not true, what will you have instead?
Truth.
Truth.
Right.
Joan,
Truth.
does that say it louder, Joan?
Truth.
True.
If you remove what's untrue, what will you have left?
Truth.
Truth.
That's your original settings from the factory.
Okay.
God's will for me is perfect
Perfect
happiness.
happiness.
It didn't go anywhere because even when the mind was split, even when the mind was shattered through this tiny mad idea, the original idea was a part. Every container not only had elements of the split, but couldn't help but also carry the remnants of the truth. There was no need for peace originally, but when the thought of war came up through the tiny mad idea, God makes sure the solution was that so would the idea of peace be a part of every fragment. The original setting is in every part. No matter how much it got covered over, it was still a part of every piece. That's why we walk around with a split mind. That's why on one shoulder we carried a little angel, and on the other, the devil jumping up with a pitchfork. Don't you have a split mind?
Yes.
Does everybody here have a split mind?
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, choices, right?
Mhm.
War or peace. But the glory of God is my own. It is the original factory setting. So to restore it, what's another name for restoration of wholeness?
Forgiveness.
It starts with an H.
Healing.
Wholeness.
Okay, all right. So we're connecting the dots. Is this making sense?
Hmm.
We're back on page 18. I can't do paragraph 2. I'm just gonna be honest. All through my career with A Course in Miracles, this one, I have the most trouble buying it. But let me tell you something. Jesus did it. So the story goes. So it can't be impossible. That's all I know. And it's just gonna be willingness that keeps me trying to be able to do it for myself. At any rate, please, let's go back to Cheryl and White, and we're on paragraph 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Paragraph 3. What is the single requisite for this shift in perception? It is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. What does this recognition cost? It costs the whole world, you see, for the world will never again appear to rule the mind. For with this recognition is responsibility placed where it belongs, not with the world, but on him who looks on the world and sees it as it is not. He looks on what he chooses to see, no more and no less. The world does nothing to him, he only thought it did. Nor does he do anything to the world, because he was mistaken about what it is. Herein is the release from guilt and sickness both, for they are one. Yet to accept this release, the insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea.
Thank you. And Gina, the last paragraph in this section.
With this idea is pain forever gone. But with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. Does not this follow of necessity? Place cause and effect in their true sequence in one respect, and the learning will generalize and transform the world. The transfer of value of one true idea has no end or limit. The final outcome of this lesson is the remembrance of God. What do guilt and sickness, pain, disaster, and all suffering mean now? Having no purpose, they are gone, and with them also go all the effects they seemed to cause. Cause and effect but replicate creation. Seen in their proper perspective, without distortion and without fear, they re-establish heaven.
Wow. Comments from you?
Wow.
Yes, wow.
I told you we're going deep again, right? And this is kind of the 2.0. The text was like the 1.0. And now we're gonna go even deeper in this workbook for students. Notice how words have diminished, and yet the meanings are even more valuable. But it took a lot of words to get us ready for the depth of what we're going to talk about, to the extent that at least we pay attention. Because if we started here without setting the proper groundwork and meeting us where we are, the only kind of common communication most of us had were words. So I'll have to start where they are. Now we're getting down to some bedrock kinds of stuff. Sickness, you remember that lesson? Is it 138 maybe? 137? Sickness is a defense against the truth. started discussing it in that lesson. But what do you think so far? I think we need to quit tonight, don't you?
Yes.
All right, you still got your wits about you and are halfway smiling. I think at least I better quit while we're ahead. Did you learn anything this evening? Were new
Yes.
ideas presented, new things to consider, things to look at differently?
More deeply sometimes.
All right. And so it makes me think about the introduction to the workbook for students, where Jesus says, I know we're not in the workbook, but I think it applies. Jesus says the purpose of this workbook is to change your mind about everyone and everything. Where? In the world.
Mm.
Audacious, right?
Mm-hmm.
How's he doing? Is he trying at least? Seriously trying? Maybe you don't believe this stuff, but if you read it, he's true to his word. To me, that's a good sign. He seems sincere, don't you think?
Definitely.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. I better come up for air here, and it's time for us to start thinking about closing. Any final comments from anyone?
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, listen,
Yes.
are you capable of paying me with a smile tonight? I haven't been asking because I've been beating you up pretty bad. Thank you. Lovely, lovely. I'm just sucking it up, right?
Good.
Because yeah,
Yay.
Have a good rest of your week, my friends. And
You too.
yeah,
You
I
too.
think Gina probably had to say her goodbyes. I see a message in the chat. So, Hilda, whenever you're ready, please
I am ready.
to the closing.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. I am the light of God.
I
I
am
am the light of
God.
God.
I am the love of God.
I
I am the
love
love of God.
God.
I am the power of God.
I
I am the power
power
of God.
I am the presence of God.
I
I
am.
am the
Presence
presence of God.
Therefore,
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 wherever I am,
wherever
Wherever
I
I
am,
am,
God is,
God
God
is,
is.
and all is well.
and all
and all is well.
Well.
There is nothing to fear.
There is
There is
There is
nothing
nothing to fear.
There is only love.
there is a
it's
There
only
is
only
only
love.
love.
Namaste.
enough.
Namaste.
It simplifies our lives, if nothing else. If the truth is that it's only one thing, not two things, not a zillion things, one thing makes you want to exhale, don't it?
Yes.
Oh, so simple. Try and live your life that way. You'll find you can actually do that, and it'll make you want more. That's my experience. I think y'all know what I'm saying. So
Yes.
we're going to keep the faith, and I'll see you next week, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Well,
Thank you.
all for
Have a blessed
joining.
week,
Yeah.
everybody.
Good night,
Bye, everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.